So we're live. Welcome to our very special series today, Voices on the Bridge, for Women's Month. I think today is an absolute celebration, but also just a reflection of where we've come as women in this country. I firstly want to start by saying absolutely big apologies. We were meant to start at 12. We're almost an hour late. But Felicity, these things happen. I believe something great wants to erupt and be cultivated today. And so we're going to shoot right through. We are live on our YouTube channel, and that is at Moja Multimedia. We were meant to go live on Facebook, but we couldn't. And then we also live on TikTok on Voices on the Bridge. So I'm going to ask that some people are already waiting on our YouTube, on TikTok. We're going to allow for a minute or so for people to get onto YouTube. But I'll start with the introductions. I'm sitting with two beautiful women. One that I know for a very long time, and the other one I sort of got to know recently, but also not new in the space. And so it gives me a great honor to introduce Miss Paul Walsh. Is that how I say it? Paul Walsh. And then Felicity Guest. I think my years in social development has, or anyone I think in the space, you'll know the blonde lady with the loud mouth. But behind that is just ordinary women doing extraordinary work in our time. And this month of Voice on the Bridge is going to be a very sacred space where we unpack issues of women empowerment, justice, economic justice, and gender-based violence. I think we have long looked at gender-based violence as just the physical violence, and we forgot the other segments to it: economic, psychological, mental, physical, spiritual. And so all of that is so interconnected, and often we focus on the one and we leave the others behind. But I'm going to allow the experts to speak on that. So it's going to be a real candid conversation. Usually we have coffee here. I think today, earlier Paul said we need something stronger for this conversation. But I want to welcome the men in the space. We've got a male, we've got men behind the production desk, and he's always excited about this conversation. But I want to invite the men in the space because we are an ecosystem. We need each other. I have a son. Felicity has a son. Paul?
I have a son and two daughters.
Yes.
I have 3 sons and 2 daughters.
3 sons. And so I know Dylan quite well because he's just out there with Felicity. And so these are the men that we speak about. It's our brothers, it's our sisters, it's our brothers, it's our fathers, it's our uncles. And so they cannot be removed from this conversation. They also cannot be removed from the ecosystem. Ultimately, we fight for restoration as part of the justice conversation. And so today I really want to encourage everyone to come on. I want to encourage women, as I said earlier, all lives matter. But women, sadly in South Africa, we are seen as commodities. We are still living in a society that is highly patriarchal. And then we have women that are begging for maintenance, not just for themselves, but for children that was made by a man. And so today it's a very, very special conversation, and I'm going to urge women to come online. And if you miss it, that you'll send someone the recording that needs to listen. We often have to go to court to make this information right here today. So I'm going to start just with 2 wonderful women, and we spoke about this earlier. This month is very significant for me, and I'm sure to the other 2 ladies, because they are activists. And activists, the work that we do is out of strong conviction. And this conviction is underpinned by a story. Not everyone just wakes up one day and says, I want to be an activist. It comes from somewhere. There's shoes that you were walking in that has made you empathic towards the plight of people, whether they are white, whether they are black, whether it's male or female. So Paul, I'm going to start with you. Just tell us a bit about who you are. Who's Paul Walsh? I heard you were a mother. Tell us a little bit more. Who you are and where you're from.
Hello everyone, as I've been introduced, it's Pearl Walsh. I am born in Cape Town. I'm second youngest of 9 family. I'm 9 children in my family, coming from the average coloured family, coloured community. I'm self-educated. I've invested in my education, working weekends, building up my life to where I'm at today. I have 3 children of my own, but I also have patchwork family. I have been married and divorced, so life has not exactly been the easiest.
So
the choices are not always for us to make, and we're not in control of the other person's decision. So life happens. You can be married, divorced, and they can die. This is just a little joke. I'm saying whoever wants to date me, they have to consider if they would like to die or not. But life, I still have a good way of life forward because my son's father passed away 6 years ago, and my life partner passed away in 2020 with COVID.
Sure.
I've had a numerous number of deaths with closeness, as in my mom, my grandparents both, my best friend, my 2 partners. My ex-husband had a heart attack just after my son's father had a heart attack and died. And I said, God, what are you doing with with my children's father? But be that as it may, he's still alive. Thank God he's able to balance and take care of my daughter, who has an autoimmune disease now since 2 years. We were not able to identify where it stems from or what caused it. And the night before last, the doctor finally confirmed that it was Lyme disease, and the whole gut has actually been destroyed. And this was from a tick bite fever which happened over 2 years ago. And no one out of 20 doctors in the UK could identify what had happened, or why she's having seizures and episodes where she goes completely numb, the muscle spasm would not function, and I'm sitting 10,000 miles away while dealing with all this emotional stress.
Sure.
And at the same time, I'm dealing with the estate of my late life partner in the High Court, where a lot of the injustices stems from, because of my view is there's a lot of bribery and corruption within the High Court. There's systemic setbacks where registrars in that High Court obstructs justice in favour of big law firms or directors of law firms who think that they can actually rule, or they may be ruling the High Court, because yesterday, while I was literally still quite suffering from a bee sting, which I didn't anticipate would knock me out completely, and the what do you call it, the fang of the bee was still under my skin, and I woke up with an intense headache and my body was stiff, so I couldn't move, and I wrote the judge, despite saying, can we remove the matter, because the Law Practice Council, who's supposed to be the very body that overlooks regularities of lawyers, is assisting my opposing lawyer from a big law firm.
Sure.
Basically, and I've got a complaint against him.
So, Paul, that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. So I'm going to come back. We're going to come back to that right now.
Okay.
We're just going to introduce Felicity.
If
But
I can finish my bee sting.
please finish your bee sting.
Sorry. Just to get to the point
Yes.
of what transpired.
Yes.
And then I'm happy for you to move over to Felicity. So, having said that, I wrote the judge that I will not be able to come into court yesterday morning, and asking the previous lawyers to stand the matter to withdraw it from the High Court roll. An order was actually made while I was not present in the court, and while we've had clear communication that everybody party to what was happening was informed. And this is partly of how the system fails us. So thank you. I'll leave it up to you.
Good. I just want to check with you. Where were you born?
Oh, I was born in Cape Town.
Where in Cape Town?
Hout Bay.
Hout Bay. Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Paul Walsh. You can hear that she's dynamic. She's got a lot to say. She's got so much riches within her. And so we're really excited to have you, Paul. A journey of grief and loss. It's been quite a journey for you. And so I'll ask a little bit about that a bit later. But it's that type of it's an experience like loss, an experience of pain that helps you understand the pain and the plight of others. So thank you very much for for that strong introduction, Paul.
Thank you, Tarryn.
Felicity Guest. Wie is Felicity? Felicity Guest, the blonde that you see at the Weinberg Court and you know, here she's coming.
Yeah, I think that the gift of age and being able to look back, like you really understand and see life very differently, and how our lives were shaped for us to become who we are. Because if you'd said to me when I was young, oh, one day when you're supposed to be on pension, you're going to be learning how to toy and sing by the bongwe, I would go, what? But here we are. And it's just like, I didn't realize that I grew up in a home that was characterized full of domestic violence. It was just life for us growing up. And then leaving home, the last time my stepfather hit me, I said, no, I'm leaving. I just matriculated. And my first relationship, I left him when he tried to strangle me with a telephone cord. And then I got engaged, and I got married to a guy who I'd only known for 6 months by the time we got married. Like, what the hell was I thinking? And yeah, as soon as we got married, he changed. And then as soon as I was pregnant, there was a radical change, because that's when he physically started getting abusive. My daughter was 3 weeks old, and I was sitting breastfeeding her on the steps waiting for him to park the car and open the door, when he came out and he hit me right off the step, you know, holding my daughter. And I remember phoning my mother and saying, I have to leave. And she said, no, you can't come back to Durban. You need to stay in Joburg, get divorced, then come back. And I stayed, and I was pregnant again. Like, my daughter was 4 months old and I was pregnant again. I couldn't leave. Anyway. And then eventually got separated and we got back together, and one night he drove in, and my younger daughter was only 2 years old, then ran and hid behind my legs. And I went, that's it. Because one of the reasons that I was trying to make my marriage work was I came from a broken home. I didn't want my children to have a step-parent because I'd been abused by a step-parent. I didn't want to be a statistic like my mother was. So I stayed far longer than what I should have. But that day when my daughter, and I went, that's it. I cannot allow my daughter, I will not expose my daughter to what I was for my whole life, until I had to leave the last time he hit me. And then, and I met a man while I was playing hockey at the hockey club. Eventually, we decided to have a child, get married, have another 2 kids. And then Dylan, my 4th child, got really ill and I couldn't work. I mean, he needed care. I saved his life. I cared for him 24 hours. My youngest was only 6 months old when Dylan became ill. But anyway, and it was an agreement that I would stay at home. And I was also reparenting myself, because my mother was the primary earner, because my stepdad was an alcoholic. So my mother provided. My mother also had 3 jobs at one stage. And she used to come home at 10 o'clock at night. My mother was not there, like, not for school, not for sport. I had to save my conversations until she was available, and I can imagine, I mean, she must have come home and be tired.
Tired.
She was exhausted. There were 5 of us, because she raised my step-siblings as well. Anyway, and I wanted it different for my kids. I wanted to be present. I wanted to mother. I wanted to be a present mother. So I gave up my career and became all of this. And I never for 1 minute thought I need to prepare in case I get divorced. We
don't think like that, do we? We just
we get married thinking we need to provide for when we get divorced. Yes, we sign a marriage agreement, and after that we don't discuss it again. So 20 years down the line, when this marriage ends, I have nothing. But I wasn't 29 as I was. I mean, I had a lot of productive years ahead of me. I mean, just on 50, I had very little productive years. Anyway, I had to, because I'd lost myself. One day I looked in the mirror and I said, who are you? Who are you? And that's when I said, that's it, I need to find me again. And like just was realistic and said, phoned my ex, he had been in Joburg for 3 months and said, like, I want you to release me because I release you. And it's so interesting when I think of the words that are spontaneously used. Because we ask for divorce, but are we really releasing? Are we ready to release the person? And those were the words that I said. I was ready at that point to just release him, to let go.
To let go. Because often you meet someone, and this is a little bit off the topic, and you hear the person, you fall in love with someone, and they say they're divorced. But there's no release. There's still that connection that sort of they carry into this new relationship. So it's very profound that you say, I need to be released. And release doesn't come with the signing of the paper.
Well, 14 years later, I'm not released.
It's a journey, hey?
So because I mean, I was just saying to Pearl earlier, I'm a victim for life. Because Dylan is an adult dependent child. I have been in the system for 14 years and there's no escape. The only time I escape this being economically abused, escape the systemic and the structural abuse is either when my ex dies or I die or Dylan dies. When one of us 3 people die, that's when I escape it because I'm locked in.
So, it takes us to our next segment. You said quite a lot of interesting taglines, and I want to come back to reparenting, reparenting the inner child, because that we're constantly doing that. We are forever healing. Every day, I said it in a post yesterday. I was triggered yesterday, and I thought I'm over it, you know. Then I realized again, I have to tell myself, healing is not linear. It's a process. And so to allow ourselves to say, am I a victim? I don't want to believe that. But I quickly go into the victim mode because I remember. And then I sit a little bit with her, the victim, and I hold her. I nurture a little bit and tell her, you okay? You safe? But you're going to be okay again tomorrow. And today I woke up and I was great compared to yesterday when I was triggered. And so we're on this journey of wholeness, because as we are lobbying and advocating for other women, we are also dealing with our stuff. We also got our own court case, our own issues of maintenance. And so one of the things that I want to speak about to both ladies and is the issue of economic abuse. We often touch a lot on the other stuff, but economic abuse is absolutely violent. You can't see it like the mental stuff, but it's there. Often it's a plan that is had to keep you home. A friend one day said to me, they decided that she was going to stay at home. Months after he gets done for work, and she's like, are you leaving this early? And he says, yeah, someone's got to work in this house. But that was not the agreement. So I want to start with your experience, Paul, of economic abuse. I also want us to speak about the fact that we want to make it palatable for the male. We don't want to hear this word gender-based violence. But one of the ways, starting from biblical times, was the fact that you keep her dependent on you. You don't educate her. You don't allow her to speak in church. And so she's fully dependent on you. And I mean, for me, with my marriage, was one of the things when I was getting therapy, because I wanted to do it right. I got married because I wanted to do it right, and then I wanted to leave, and then I wanted to do that right too. And one of the reasons why I was still there was, 1, I wasn't driving. 2, I was worried about finance. And so how in 2025 do we still have a cohort of women? I'm not going to say it's the majority, but a huge group of women that are still there because of money. I just learned recently that someone died, a very close friend of mine, the partner died, and she didn't know that there was no money. There was absolutely no money. Not that money is everything, But even while they were married, it wasn't disclosed that I don't have money. I don't even have money to bury myself. And to me, that is so violent. So, Paul?
Wow. In 2025, and my experience of fighting my own legal battle the last 5 years, with a partner dying, now I didn't come, or my partner was well off, quite wealthy, and I had a good life, international life, despite our children and the patchwork family. But what I'm dealing with in my personal capacity, other than the other women that I help simultaneously, is I'm dealing with fraudulent trustees and lawyers that are professionals in the system, and they have judges and registrars in their pockets in the High Court. And the delays of justice is justice denied. And I find that not only with my own personal matter, there's a friend of mine who's going through a divorce now because the prenup was fraudulently done by the, notary, and a long-standing attorney that she's had on her records and books for 20 years, which she trusted. Said, sign here by the crosses, there, don't worry, I'll tell you. By the time she got married, or realized, which was a few months after the marriage, that overhearing two women talking about a prenup, and she then thought, I better find out what my prenup says, or when are we going to do it, not knowing that she already had signed 3 pages. Then with requesting this from the attorney's office, who's supposed to be her long-term attorney of over 20 years, that has done all the transactions for the other businesses and her life and her previous husband who passed away. This attorney manipulated the papers. The papers were fraudulent and misrepresented. The contractual rights were not contractually formulated, witnesses before both parties. Then the husband pulls for a divorce but fails to pay maintenance. And what they try to do in the opposing lawyers, the legal system is designed to saturate women, to prolong the legal matters, to dry them out and hang them up and desert them. This is what most of our women, whether it is child maintenance, whether it is deceased estates, whether it is life partnership, women in South Africa must understand when they've been in a long-term relationship, life partners have become legal as a marriage in common law. A lot of them don't understand their rights. A lot of them are left without support and maintenance. The partner throws you out and say, you were not in this condition when I found you, and I'm going to make you worse off than when you moved in with me. And then I'm going to make your life difficult. There's another lady that I met at the NPA groups and talks. She lost her 2 children. 2 judges signed 2 different orders on the same day. Her children was removed from her custody. The husband that had signed a divorce settlement, after 6 or 7 years, negotiated that she only was paid out 20% of that because they knew she was desperate. And I had told her, I said, do not take the settlement agreement. The divorce order was granted for the money that is supposed to be allocated to you. What he did was, she said to me last week, she said, oh, I had to take just the 20% because I have to live. I've been in and out of courts that class me as a vexatious litigant, so I can't access the system. My children have been taken away from me. I've bled myself dry. I had to just take what he's willing to give me, and he's living a multi-millionaire life. And this is the unfortunate part that we as women, or as myself, it doesn't matter whether you are in the township, whether you are in a middle-class family, whether you are in a 5-star, or living in a good suburb. When it comes to maintenance and the breakdown of relationships, the ego is beyond. And those are the very guys that is able to basically go and forge the system. And lawyers and advocates, they are so dishonest. In fact, they are the legal robbery within the system because they bend over backwards for the clients. They're not bending over for the rule of law. They are not looking at the constitutional rights and the basic human rights and equality before the law. so that the women and the children, should they have children from that particular relationship, is just given the basic need of food, a roof over their head, and warmth to safeguard themselves so that they can actually rehabilitate their lives and move on.
Sure. Because as you're speaking, it's triggering me because it's in our families, it's next door, it's not just clients. And this thing that you say about the law that has been designed, the architecture from when you walk into court, it's for a male. Why must I say as a female, I need to get me a female lawyer? Because a man is not going to.
Funny enough, you say that, Tarryn. After I did the protest before the High Court the other day, I went and sat in on a hearing from one of the moms from the High Court.
Yeah.
Where professionals, female advocate, in fact I know her, she looked at me, what are you doing here? And I was there in support of the other mom. Alienate the women themselves because they are paid. And they were pleading to the judge when the lawyer dropped this lady 3 days before her court hearing because she didn't have 150,000 rand to pay the lawyer dropped her. The psychologist then, the report was manipulated and changed in favor of the opposition party. That very female advocate stood there and degraded the mom, tried to manipulate and remove her son from her. When your children need you most, when the father is touching you in inappropriate ways. Why take the child away from the mom, put it in the care of the perpetrator or the father for that matter? And then looking at his legal team, there was 3 candidate attorneys, the advocate and 2 lawyers.
Probably a private social worker.
Private social workers, private psychologists, all intimidating the single mom that sat there, that had no legal representation. And that judge, on that day, and I said to her the night before, I said, if you don't have a lawyer, the judge must grant you the opportunity to seek new legal representation.
Yes.
Because you were not prepared. You relied on that lawyer to prepare papers for you. And yet that lawyer drops you 3 days before the court hearing. So you're standing there against all these professionals, which dominates you, and all you want is fight for the best interest of your child.
And Felicity, I just want to check with you. A friend of mine said, I'm paying my lawyer 5,000 every month. Money I don't have. It's an advocate because he has an advocate. Am I going to lose my children because I cannot afford our legal system? What has been your experience with women? I mean, you work with women from Gugulet to Mitchell's Plain and Constantia. What does it look like for an average woman?
The risk of losing your child is pretty high, sadly. So I think that we need to really relook the way that we view all of this, okay? Because I've grown in my understanding and my knowledge, and I think we need to start moving to international best practices and norms now. We're lagging so far behind. And I'll give you a quick example, which I shared with Pearl. There was a victim of domestic violence who committed suicide. After she had left the abusive relationship, she was young, she was only 24 when she took her own life. The UK criminalised coercive controlling behaviour. Okay? The parents lobbied for 2 years to reopen the inquest. It was eventually granted, and her new death certificate states death by coercive control.
Wow.
Whereas her previous one was by suicide.
Yeah.
That opens the door now for him to be prosecuted as the cause of her death. Can I let that sink in? There's a few things.
So let it sink in. I just want to tell the people online, the viewers, you can ask questions, you can post it there. We have I think Destiny is going to come and she's going to probably in the next 15 minutes bring, I think, 2 rounds of questions. so that we can, while the guests are here, we can answer it live for you. If you want to be anonymous, that's fine as well. I think it's sunk a little bit.
So the first thing that's important is the focus is on a pattern of behaviors. Okay. So, and then the impacts of the pattern of behaviors. So if where I used to focus on originally child maintenance, and as my understanding grew, then it became economic abuse. Then when I understood it, then it became economic and financial abuse. Now it's coercive control, with a focus on economic and financial abuse, which is the tactic. Well, economic abuse is the tactic, and the tool is the money.
So my question is, do you think, you're saying we need to really look at international best practice. Is it our laws that are not progressive, or is it our interpretation of the law? Because if I look at a wonderful piece of white elephant, good document, the domestic abuse, and then the new GBV that was coming post-COVID that sits in the president's office, it's a beautiful piece of academic literature. It has everything. Some of those stuff I thought, I could have written this. It's there. It's not being implemented.
So coercive control is included
Yes.
in our domestic violence act now under amendments, but it's not criminalized. Okay. So what if it were, and that's what we need to lobby. And I've read many discussion papers why it wasn't criminalized.
Okay.
But if it were criminalized, just think about this. Somebody who willfully does not pay maintenance. Okay. What are the tactics that they use? I will pay you maintenance, but the moment you take me to court, I'm going to stop.
Yes.
Take me to court and then I will deny paternity.
Sure.
Take me to court and I will resign. So we're seeing these are different patterns of behavior. Okay. So they're telling us what they're going to do. So that's the coercion part. So I'm going to coerce you into doing what I want you to do, and if you don't, if I can't control you, I'm going to punish you. So coercive control is a pattern of behaviors that either punishes or rewards you. So if we take that concept and we take it across all the sectors, what Pearl is talking about, all the intersections, just stepping away from the use of economic abuse and money as a tool, if we go to rape, a lot of sexual violence, it can be prosecuted under coercive control. The grooming, particularly. Then the emphasis shifts from the evidence to the pattern of behavior. Okay, and this is where I'm going. So if we take, like the suicide, the emphasis was on the pattern of behavior that caused the death. It wasn't her taking her own life.
Wow.
So if we look at rape cases, okay, if we look at murder cases, if we look at what's going on in the maintenance court, if we look at what is going on in the children's court, if we look at what is going on in the domestic violence courts and in the high courts, anything family related, the majority of them could be prosecuted under coercive control if it was criminalized. Because then we're focusing, it could be, well, he stopped me from working, so we'll get back to economic abuse. About the tactics, okay? As your friend, we agreed that I wouldn't work. I did too. But then it becomes, they prevent you from becoming economically active when you change your mind. Okay? Or you can go and be economically active, but your money goes into my account because I control the money.
Sure.
Okay, so there's various, and that's the behavior. Or the money goes into your account, but you make sure that you pay school fees and the clothing and feed the kids, while I can go and spend my money on golfing or drinking or my side chicks or whatever. You don't get to control my money, but you make sure, because the research shows us that even in township economies, there's a lot of research on that, where women spend most of their money in the townships. Okay, so they're building the township economy. They're keeping the money in the township. Okay, in their community. whereas men take their money and they spend it out of community. So these issues are important. They're all intersect and they're layered.
Yes.
So if we look at all of these patterns, then they can be prosecuted for deliberately resigning, because all you have to do is produce a WhatsApp message, some kind of like evidence of this threatening behavior, and then he did it. That's your evidence. Whereas opposed, we're having to go and get, like, were the witnesses, bring your bank account, scrutinize all of that in the maintenance courts, like the sexual grooming, the evidence, the witnesses are, it's a matter of opinion. Do you understand?
I do.
It's so much easier to criminal or to find somebody guilty of a pattern of behaviors. So now let's just look at that. I often say to people, we need to understand that we live in a patriarchal world still. And it's and understanding it from a money aspect, okay? So women were not allowed to work. Women were not allowed to own property or have bank accounts. We know all of this. And then that's also layered with the races, okay? So we all catch up eventually, okay? And now all women in South Africa, irrespective of our races, we can work and we can have bank accounts and we can accumulate assets. If we look in the history, how many years is that? It's not. It's very young. So we don't have generational wealth on the maternal side or within women.
Yeah.
Okay. We're still getting the hang of that.
Catching up.
Okay. When women aren't breaking each other down. Okay.
Sure.
So sorry, I had to just put that in there.
Let me just do this quickly. Wow.
So we should be supporting our friends in business. We should supporting women's businesses. Okay. But anyway, so men still control through money because they always did. And when I say to people, why do women change their surnames when they get married? And they go, I don't know. And I'm going, did you? Yes, I did. Why? And they go, I don't know. I'm going, do you understand that women were owned by their fathers as their wives were? And when they got married, ownership was transferred to the son-in-law. So you now become his property.
Yes.
Women did not have legal rights to do anything. We were property. Okay, that's important. Where I'm going to. So we're still changing our surnames. I don't have a problem with people changing their surnames, but do it consciously. Understand why have the discussion.
Yes.
I'm changing my surname because yes, these are old family values, but you do not own me. It is important for me. It's important to understand and to declare that at the beginning. You don't own me.
The same with when we're paying Labola.
Right.
You do not own me. So I'm going to park it there. Felicity Guest. Such wealth of information, and then also your personal story, which we're going to revisit. We're going to have a part 2 of this. I said to you, there will be more ladies in the space, but I want to speak to Pearl. I want to speak to Pearl about the abuse from the grave, because that is what it is. You married. The marriage is okay. Did you expect this was going to happen?
I was engaged to be married.
Sorry, he was your partner.
And a life partner. He actually revoked his will. He made a letter, a one-pager, where he confirmed that he instructed the trustees and executives to take care should anything happen. He was actually going for a prostate cancer operation, got COVID in the interim, and died with COVID. So one trustee here, one trustee in Switzerland. The trustee in South Africa has got 8 accounts of fraud against her in the High Court.
Against her?
Against her, with 2 valid merits of fraud still pending, which was judged by the retired Justice Binsworth. My partner took reciprocal duties for my children since my son's father passed away. We had a good life. We traveled between Switzerland and South Africa. I got my maintenance. I got my stipend from the trust, which was allocated per annum, apart from financial spend on his credit card. My opposing legal team confirms that, first they tried to dispute that I was not who I said I would be. Then, having challenged this in court,
what does that mean? They disputed that you're not to.
Felicity mentioned something earlier from the financial or the strategic aspect of when you're filing for maintenance.
Yeah.
And what that means is they brought a disputed fact, which is called a technicality and part of this delay strategic structure, to prolong this matter forward. So that maintenance doesn't get allocated. It doesn't matter how urgent maintenance is.
Yes.
But one part I have discovered is the judicial obligation for when you apply for maintenance in the High Court or in a magistrate court should be 48 hours within the decision they have to make. But a lot of them evade and avoid that responsibility of maintenance orders.
Sure.
Because lawyers are privy to abusing the legal system with legal tactic, and the judges are fully aware. Some judges don't even, they don't even consider. They just make orders because advocates are handing out draft orders, whether you are there or not. Sometimes these decisions are made in the chamber. It's called a chamber book application. They don't even serve you proper papers, but they get an order. All of a sudden they serve you with an order. You say, I'm sorry, I was not there. It was without my knowledge. I was not given the opportunity. And they disregard this, which means judges are taking the law into their own hands, knowing that they're prejudiced and they are biased towards us as citizens. They have an oath to uphold the rule of law, to apply the Constitution, and to apply your human rights. Maintenance is constitutional, but yet we see how many issues we have with maintenance lagging behind. So coming back to my story, so I'm dealing with executors and trustees that got a letter of executorship from the Master of the High Court. Now we all know how fraudulent the Master of the High Court is and how easy it is for them to be paid off. So the Master gives a letter of executorship. They go and register the estate of my late life partner in Switzerland. Because Switzerland at the time they assumed was not recognizing life partners. So be that as it may, Switzerland's got informal partners, they've got same-sex partners, all the rules and regulations have upgraded like South Africa has done. And I'm glad that life partners have become a constitutional right to be able to claim from your deceased estate or your deceased partner's estate in 2020. So, having started my legal battle in 2020, of course, they assumed that they were going to get it right, that I would not fall into this category of life partnership and as a fiancé. So they created this disputed fact to say I am not who I say I am. I have my engagement certificate, I've got the proof of credit card, I've got the proof of the one-pager where he states that he instructed the trustees. They clearly say, oh well, then she must fight for that right in South Africa. And South Africa says, no, she must go and fight it in Switzerland because the Master of the High Court had given a letter of executorship, which they used to access the Swiss bank accounts and to register the estate in Switzerland. However, we have domicile, residence, income taxpayer as clear jurisdiction of the South African court having primary jurisdiction because of him being a South African national as well. Ping pong, same executors, same trustees. No, go and fight there, go and fight here. Same big lawyer from a director of the big law firm, acting as the lawyer, plays and manipulates and with judges. In fact, he's the very one that instructs the High Court what they must do. If not, drafts all the applications for what is issued to me as directives. Of course, you can understand the tone of communication and how it's written, but yet they've made so many mistakes. He tried to then class me as a vexatious litigant so that I cannot access the courts, that I must go and apply to a judge before I can make an application. This has happened to numerous of the other women in our maintenance groups and the women in the High Court groups, where their husbands or their lawyers have abused the system to class them as a vexatious litigant so they cannot access the law, which is a complete violation of their constitutional rights, by the way, and their human right as a South African citizen. Be that as it may, my opposing lawyer a director of Waxman's law firm, Rail Barry Goodkin. Not only has he been known to abuse the legal system with legal tactic, there's been other lawyers fighting for women, divorces in Joburg. It's public knowledge. The same lawyer that is the lawyer and the same senior counsel for Steinhoff International. Steinhoff International has abused many South Africans of their pension funds, women,
Sure.
you name it.
Old persons.
I see that the whole Steinhoff deal has been restructured and Christovis has reinvested its $1.6 billion worth now. What about all those South Africans who lost their pension funds in the fact that my opposing lawyer, Mr. Rail Barry Goodkin, abused the legal system with legal tactics since 2016, knowing his client Marcus Juster was guilty of international tax fraud. What I'm going through now is international tax fraud, which was affirmed and admitted. They registered me as a life partner on the Swiss tax system. Swiss tax system paid out money. So they come to South Africa and say, oh no, but she's not a life partner, she has no right to be able to claim. And I'm saying, you registered me on the Swiss tax system. Swiss tax system paid out money, which means you have confirmed that you're omitting international tax fraud, but yet you're denying me my maintenance, you blocked my 1 million stipend from the trust. Since he died, unlawfully, because when he died, they didn't have the letters of executorship when they blocked my maintenance.
Sure.
And this High Court of the Western Cape, including the new judge president, I mean, it took me, almost 6 months, 3 months at a time to get a directive out of her. When my opposing lawyers writes to the judge president, 24 hours later, oh, there's a directive and an order issued whether we're going to have a meeting, but none of them to date have upheld the rule of law for my maintenance rights, to issue the maintenance, to issue an interim interdict. They've been selling assets, dissipating assets. They liquidated the estate at the Masters for 368,000 rands. Yet in court they state under oath that the estate is indebted to the trust for 74 million, which is a huge discrepancy without bringing necessary paperwork and laying it out before the judge. Now my lawyers have also struck me off a pre-trial so that I cannot get the necessary information through discovery and through the courts. So 23 judges to date in this High Court of the Western Cape have denied me my right and access to justice. I was meant to be heard yesterday on a Rule 30, which is technicality. I was allowed to amend my particulars of claim. But yet they come to me and they say, oh well, you're not entitled to this. They make me a settlement agreement offer confirming reciprocal duties, confirming my son's school fees and maintenance, but yet, oh, you're not entitled to that. Why? Because he's a big director from a Jewish law firm, that I'm not entitled as a colored woman for my maintenance because I lived a well of life and my partner is a billionaire. Why should I not be entitled? My message to every South African woman that has had a foreign relationship or partners or fighting maintenance, they must try and get their maintenance orders through the Hague Convention and enforceable and via Interpol for those who defaults maintenance, whether it's children, whether it is divorces and marriages, because there are rules and regulations that we as simple citizens don't know until you find yourself in that situation.
Paul, I'm going to ask you to just hang in. If you've joined, you're on Voices on the Bridge with Moja Multimedia, speaking to two experts in the GBV space, gender-based violence, with a specific focus on economic injustices in South Africa. Felicity uses another term that she's introduced us to. Tell us about that term quickly.
Cohesive control.
Coercive control. So I want to ask you a question before we go to Felicity. Probably two questions I want to ask you both. I want to ask you one in simple terms. How does this impact your son? And what does the family, your late partner's family, say about all of this? Because there is a child here at the end of the day. There's a well-being of a child, his livelihood, there is the emotions that is involved. It's not just that he has died, but the life I once was privy to, I don't have it.
The family doesn't care for them, it's about money. They
Okay.
don't think that I should be entitled to anything, even though they did not work for it. They all have been living off stipends, in
Okay.
fact, and have had homes, everything in trust that's been paid for them. How it's affected me, Jewish lawyers in this town, they all stick together. I was illegally robbed, unlawfully robbed by the sheriff and assaulted by the sheriff in my own home.
Sure.
What my opposing lawyers wanted was, not only are they saturating me financially, they blocked my financial means. All the lawyers know each other, it's a buddy-buddy system here in the Western Cape. Even the Law Practice Council have refused, out of 6,500 lawyers they have on record.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me a pro bono support, failed dismally to support me with all the lawyers and big law firms in the Western Cape to find me a lawyer. They dropped me a few days ago before my court hearing. I then write to say, remove the matter from the roll because I'm not prepared. I have been ignored by the judges, registrar, judge, president, everybody that's been included in the communication. And the opposing lawyer stands up like a bull terrier saying, this matter will continue whether you like it or not. And guess what? The matter continued without me yesterday in court, even though they were all notified, which also is a clear violation of my constitutional and human rights. Not only did the judge make an order to say, having heard the counsel, clearly identifying that the applicant wasn't in court, and makes an order, which I haven't read fully because I've been a little bit preoccupied with my bee sting and my extensive migraine that I had and the headaches. But here we are, again, systemic failures. We have a male ego as a director of a law firm. Sure, the High Court gets a lot of business from these law firms. I see that now with the electronic system, they're charging you 7 rand to upload a page electronically to the High Court system. Now you tell me which of the average people that doesn't have an income, who needs to fight for justice, access to the courts, has that money to come and upload the application electronically. So which means they fail a number of our society, most of our communities, Mitchell's Plain, Hanover Park, Athlone, wherever we are, doesn't matter if you are remotely, slightly in a better position than the other. If you do not have the income or the means, again, they're robbing us blindly, like they are doing with the rates and taxes they've increased. But quickly coming back to me being legally, unlawfully robbed, the sheriff is another business point of action through the system. As I was protesting in front of the court the other day, this woman came and she said, they've evicted us, there was no papers, there's no this, and the registrar doesn't want to give me access to the papers that was filed out. And she was destroyed. And I said, please do me a favor, go back down to the registrar, tell her you have the right to access to information that the court must copy that file for you in order for you to understand what transpired, but yet it doesn't bring them back in the home that they've been ripped away from. And this is how our justice system robs us, rapes us, destroys us blindly because of the people that sits behind the walls of the High Court that's cracking. Somehow we as the people must stand together to bring down the rot in that system.
Polish. The system rapes us, she says.
Yeah.
And we see it every day. We see it with our clients. We see it in our families. Felicity, we don't have much time, but I want to park here for a while. You said something very profound and touched me. I will be a victim for the rest of my life. Someone said to me yesterday, you were triggered because there wasn't justice yet. And so I'm always advocating that in the absence of an apology, I can still forgive. But there's this thing hanging because there wasn't justice for many women in this specific case. So I'm going to ask you quickly, 5 minutes. I mean, it's a lot. What is happening with your personal maintenance? Then I'm going to ask you that, and then, because at the heart of this Paul and Felicity, there's a woman that was once married to a man or in partnership with someone, and then there are precious children that has been punished through this.
Yeah. So I think it's also, before I come to my own story, okay, I try and use this opportunity to make people like really aware. So I came across, like on my group that I've had now for 11 years, like I started going, hang on, like it doesn't matter what your race, your socioeconomics, your religion, this is behavior, and it's behavior by men to women. I go, what is it? And then I go and dive down a rabbit hole and try and make sense of what is going. Can't be unique. I can't be the only one seeing it. It can't only be happening in South Africa. So this is, for me, was quite revealing. Is you get, and they've done research. There's a lot of research on it. So when you have a moment, it's very interesting. It's called social parenting. So if you, like my ex, he was the biological father, the social father, and I've added financial father. Okay, the financial father. And so when you get divorced, and these are very observant patterns, okay? When you get divorced, the first thing that happens is the social father disappears. And it's to punish his ex-partner. Okay, but it's not, and I really do believe that a lot of it is unintentional punishment. Okay, no, I don't believe it is always intentional, because here's the thing, and I'll come back to that because it's to understand what is happening, because otherwise we're never going to change what's happening in the maintenance court. So the first thing that happens is the financial father disappears. Okay. And there's a reason why that happens. Then and the intersections with the co-parenting is like, I want my child and I want my child 50%. Yeah. Okay, that's where they start, because they're still being a social parent. Even though a lot of men were not present socially because they work and they provide, or they've got sports and interests. But anyway, but now, yes, social father. And then that wanes. And then they don't see the kids at all. We have 70% of children that are growing up with absent fathers. This is not me making stuff up. The stats are there. Okay, so he's still a biological father, but the social father disappeared and the social father disappeared. Okay, which our stats confirm. So let's go back to, why does the financial parenting stop? And we go back to what I started earlier. So women were considered a product, an asset, ownership. Okay.
Property.
So men invest in the women in their lives because they are seen as an asset. Just as a sad note, the research also shows us that the two happiest cohorts of human beings are single women and married men. Okay. So the married men benefit from being married. Okay, so that's why they invest so heavily in their women. In the women in their lives, whatever that is. And if she comes along with children, they will invest in those children because they want her. Okay. But when they're investing in her, they're withdrawing their investment from their own biological children. And then that ties into the social parenting. So he still shows up as a social parent, but not to his own children. So his own personal needs are being fulfilled, right? He's happy, he's got a woman. He's happy, he's got a woman in his life, her children are benefiting, and then people say, but why is she not standing up? Why is she not her sister's keeper? Well, she comes from where her kids have been abandoned, the social and the financial father disappeared. So do you think she's going to rock that boat when her kids are benefiting, even if it's at the expense of another woman?
Sure.
She's been there, she knows that, but she's not going to rock the boat because she's being invested in. And are women not groomed to make themselves investable?
Wow.
by society. We're told, we're groomed. This is what, if you want to get a husband, this is, so we have been groomed to be an investment. Then why is it surprising when men change their investment? Okay, so here's the thing for me.
Wow, this is. Can I just process that a little bit? Because I'm just thinking quickly. When it's amazing, like how it started then, but it's still happening.
Yeah.
We look at. I mean, I'm going to speak about us, women of color. When you're dating this guy and they call you the side chick, he's the older guy. You must pay for your weave. You must pay for your nails. He wants to be with me. He must pay for my friends. It's that. It's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And then you get discarded like used goods. And the children benefit by default, and they are prejudiced by default, they're punished by default. So, I have this very compassionate thing, and that's why now where my work has shifted is to make people understand how the social constructs. Because in the absence of understanding that, and guys, like, I speak to guys and they go, but you hate men. I go, no, I hate the behavior of men. There's a very big difference. Can I just share some of my insights? And the moment I share my insights, I can literally see them going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Because if we don't women have had to do the work. Okay, because we've had to shift to being the nurturer and the the protector to becoming the provider.
Yes.
And men have not progressed to accommodate us. So it's this whole punishment and reward. So that's why for me, money is so significant. It is the core, a very significant core of gender-based violence, of femicide. Women choose violence over poverty because in the absence of a functional protective justice system, they will choose poverty. It's cool. If you have a choice, I'd rather have a home and food in my tummy and get a slap or be controlled than go and end up in the streets, because men spend their money, for example, most men in a unit will pay the rent or the bond. And they say, well, you're going to do the shopping out of your money. So it seems equitable. But hell, the moment there's a little bit of a problem, they go, I pay the bond here. This is my house. Whether you're married in COP or not, it's the concept that the money comes from my bank account to cover the house. It is therefore mine. It's ownership. In that moment, or in that thinking, there's no rationality. But your money's going here. We're actually equal. We both own this house. It's just how they socialize. Men are socialized. Own property, control. Get out of my house.
I was going to say
so women are physically removed. Yes. How many times in social work? How many times are you not told, my things are outside the door's locked, my kids and I are sitting here, we haven't had food, we've got nowhere to go to. Okay, so that's that. And then of course, it's a topic for another day, because yes, there are remedial, there is remedy to this. And then we talk about access to justice. And then we talk about the time periods. And then we cross that back into the maintenance court. And I keep saying we have to humanize the process, because every time, I think the word that any woman who has entered a maintenance course that is most familiar to her is postponed.
And that's
because every time, right?
So
that's part of the behavior. Okay, that's part of the behavior. But also, every time you postpone, you're postponing poverty. And you're postponing, you're prolonging abuse. You're prolonging. And then you become you're perpetuating it.
So now, we don't have much time, but I'm going to have a part two. I have two questions that I noted from the team. Is there any more questions, Destiny? Is there questions? You can bring them to me. But I want to bring this back to you. I want to bring this back home. Because when the two meet, there's an explosion, there's a moment. I want you to speak us through your son, the access. I mean, you're there at the forefront and you should be winning.
Yeah. So, I'm a victim of the system. Okay. So, just distinguish.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't walk around with the label, I'm a victim. I'm not stuck in victimhood. I'm a victim of the system. I'm a victim of a dysfunctional system. So, and that is, and I'm there for life. I have a 14-year history. I mean, which started from the fraudulent divorce, so we look at behavior, okay, and the red flag. He divorced me fraudulently without my consent. I just got served a decree. Okay, so that's where we started. So, and I'm going to keep emphasizing behavior. Why would he do that? In his fraudulent divorce, he had no children. We had no children. We got 5 kids. Okay, my 2 adopted. Okay, so you look at, like, he's a liar. Okay, but this was through an organized syndicate. So it's a corrupt justice system. People in the judiciary. I had that set aside, but what is my access now to maintenance? I've got 3 children that are dependents. Okay, I've got birth certificates. So I went to maintenance court. Okay, while I'm navigating the other. Had his divorce set aside. In between all of that, he had shacked up with another woman in Johannesburg while he was here on business, and that's why he wasn't coming back to Cape Town. But instead of having a backbone and the guts to say, our marriage is over, like, no, we'll play this differently. You know, we'll make her the aggressor, the irrational one. I mean, he drove me friggin' crazy, right? And then he said, must be menopause, take it to the doctor. But you're not sending money, you're not coming home. I have all these kids and a mentally challenged child whose behavior was a full-time job because he wasn't medicated, we weren't on medical aid. Anyway, long story short. So we're moving along. So that was the maintenance court stuff. My name will go up in a plaque there one day. But here's an adult child, okay? And there are many Dylans out there who need care for the rest of their lives, okay? So one, it's the provision. In my divorce agreement, he's supposed to have a policy. So if he dies, but anyway, he doesn't pay. The truth is he resents Dylan because Dylan is not normal. He can't have a conversation, he can't go drinking, he can't play sport with him. He resents Dylan.
Can't have a typical son, dad.
Correct. And he's married a woman who doesn't have children. And I promise it's one of my favorite things. And yes, I ran a little CMT business and I had these beautiful women from the Cape Flats that taught Dylan some very profound Cape language. And Dylan doesn't learn, he just repeats. So Dylan, he's only had Dylan twice in Johannesburg in 14 years. Okay, so the one occasion he was with his brothers, but he had tripped. He went on tilt, he had lost his equilibrium, and because he doesn't know me, he didn't know how to regulate him.
Yes.
So anyway, he's this man is like really thinks he's somebody who he's not. But anyway, they go off to Wanderers for lunch, and him and I don't know whether they're married yet, anyway, it's besides the point, and my 3 boys are sitting there, and Dylan is mad now. Yeah. So the waiter comes walking to the table, and Dylan goes, "You're fired!" in the middle of Wanderers, and everybody's looking at them. And then the waitress goes, "You're Martha!" You can imagine. Well, that was the last time Dylan went to Johannesburg. Because
I needed that laugh. Listen, I needed that laugh. There's just this heaviness on my back.
So this child is in these in real moments. Yeah. So anyway, he hasn't seen Dylan since 2017, and that just really also shows, that he's so far removed. It doesn't fit his lifestyle. He's a grudge payment. Okay, simple. So again, the focus on the behavior. I've been to criminal court so many times, and then the behavior is he'll go through all of this. He will provide fraudulent documents. And then in the middle of the trial, when it's been postponed, because we're now 300,000 Rand in arrears, he'll pay it miraculously. And then, okay, we're going to just drop the case. So there's no consequences. So for 14 years, he's learned to play the system. That's why I say, until the system says, and we might be there now, we might have a prosecutor. Well, there is a bit of will, it appears, with the new maintenance officer. Hopefully, we can find a prosecutor who wants to think outside the box. The mere fact that we have a court order, he's not applied for a variation, he is in contempt of court. Simple. they can charge him for contempt of court. Never mind looking for the evidence and whether he's had money and whether we're going to do a civil or a criminal. He's in contempt of court. Friggin' charge him. Hold him accountable for the first time. This man, in all of this, Jam, I feel sorry for his second wife, and I shouldn't laugh because I am a sister's keeper. But I did try and warn her. I did say, you can't trust him, he's a liar. But then I was a crazy, bitter ex. I did try and say to be careful.
Yeah,
He divorced me fraudulently. You can't marry him just yet because legally he's still married to me. And I meant that, like, not being bitchy. I mean, she couldn't marry him because she thought he was divorced, but he wasn't. But you can't believe him. He's a liar.
Someone said to me, Mel said to me earlier, earlier this week, he says, if a guy comes to you and says his ex is mad,
Yeah.
you best believe that he is the one that is guilty.
Correct.
We have 5 minutes left, and I mean, there's so much.
I just want to,
Yes,
but he stole 14 million rand from his second wife and his third wife from her and her brother. So I'm just saying, where is the behavior? I've stayed in my lane. I've been trying to fight. I've been just trying to get what is due to Dylan.
I like it's a normal response that people like us have. Because she says earlier, the first one strangled me, and then she laughs, and I often say, I was thrown out of the car.
Right. I survived. I got one bump on my head.
So, yeah, I'm like, she's saying, like, and this one did that, and then she laughs. But listen, the girls and I spoke about it yesterday in the car. Trauma does this. And there's a word in the Cape Flats, so we kap aan.
Yeah, we kap aan.
I want to ask you, and maybe I should ask Felicity, and then I'm going to come to you, Paul, and then I'm going to answer the 2 questions. It's going to only be 5 minutes. What type of man, and I know, because there's the social science behind it. We want to all call them pigs. Probably one in 3 of my friends has an issue with a dad that's gone. And some of us are just saying, listen, I don't even need you, please, and just pay the money, because I can be a greater mom if there's money coming in. We do understand that a male is absolutely needed, but if you don't want to be here, give the money. These kids are amazing. What type of man just goes? Does he not think about Dylan at night? Does he not think about the little boy, or?
No, I don't. I think mine is probably a few personality disorders. Like, it's obvious from his behaviour, so I don't want to use mine as a good frame of reference. I also think that men are conditioned and socialised to cut off their emotions and not think and replace it. Okay,
Yes.
so and I think that's why we think about it and we talk about it more. Men are solution driven. Like, don't keep on about your problem. You give me your problem, let me help you. Do you want it solved? I'll help you solve. And that's it, you know. And they seem to cope with their personal situations. So when it comes to, they don't want to do the work. Baby mama drama, they reduce it to baby mama drama. No, just learn to communicate. Just please, if you're going to be on time, just be on time. But they reduce it all to baby. And then to avoid baby, instead of taking responsibility, avoid baby mama drama, they stay away. And then eventually, then women eventually go, look, I'm tired of begging, I'm tired of whatever, just give me the money. Then we're accused of being gold diggers. We just want the money, we don't want, no, we're tired of begging you to be fathers and to show up. I think that we need to really start having deeper conversations, because the problems are not going to go away. The courts are going to just be overburdened. Like, we're all part of this problem. Women need to make really more discerning choices about their sexual reproduction. And I say that because a 12-year-old girl and a married woman of 30 who is now financially stable and planned her life end up in the same situation, raising children without money somewhere down the line and having to go through a maintenance court. So you can plan. I think we really need to understand that women must stop avoiding talking about money when they meet a man, and if you want to know how your relationship is going to go, talk about money. Talk about money.
Ladies and gentlemen, Felicity guesses. That's one of the questions you ask on the first, second, third date about. You talk about the issues
Talk
of
about
money.
money.
Wow, that you're there now.
I've never spoken about money getting into a relationship, but I have somehow assessed, and my partners I never looked for,
Yeah.
which is a different perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
I come from a separated family,
Mm.
but my partners didn't abuse or ill-treat me. I've had people around me, and it's always been a wish of mine over the years as to how I help them and impact them to get through
Sure.
their challenges and traumas.
A question for you, Paul, that I was asked yesterday already. I mean, we just probably scraped the tip of the iceberg today. But one of the questions is, you with this partner, or you marry this man, and he passes away, and then children come and they claim that you must get out of the house. It's our father's house. And I've heard this twice, and so that was one of the questions for you.
So, in my instance, the houses were in trust. We have trustees that are discretionary trusts, so the children doesn't even know what's in the trust. In fact, the trustees have got sole discretion to make decisions and to sell assets without any of the beneficiaries knowing what they are doing. Hence, when I raised this without knowing, and of course my partner was the founder, the testator, and a beneficiary of the trust, not alone a trustee. So the other two trustees that's left, they are the ones handling the trust. But they decide for the whole family, because all the others have been getting monthly stipends, and everything else is structured in companies and structured in trust, where that should not be changing hands. However, still, they sold the house in January for $35 million in Bantry Bay, and I'm sure that they've been dissipating those assets as well without knowing, and there was no need for them to sell this trust asset because there's sufficient money in the trust.
Sure.
The estate of my late life partner made a deal, or the asset that falls into the estate, that the master liquidated for 368,000 rand. The asset that falls into that estate made a deal with BMW globally for $98 billion US. $98 billion US. That's a lot of money. That would have to fall back into his estate. So how does the master liquidate that estate without international or assets formulating that is in Switzerland and in South Africa, because his domicile and jurisdiction is here?
Yeah.
None of that was applicable, which clearly tells you that the trustees, the executors, and the lawyers have been acting fraudulently. They've been abusing the system, legal tactic, and this very high court has been supporting them.
Sure.
All the judges that has made orders, even the judge yesterday that I clearly stated, and his registrar acknowledges and says the judge is informed, still goes ahead and makes an order without me present in court. And when I've asked for the matter to be removed, now with this electronic upload, thank God to COVID, it taught us to communicate electronically.
Yeah.
When they are all connected to the communication and they've all seen it and they are aware, surely they must act justly within our rights, not just favored to one party. So when you were saying your ex-husband defrauded one of his wives for 14 million, it is the lawyers in the High Court. Those are the fraudsters. They legally fraud people knowing that they are abusing the system.
I don't know, my ex stole the money. He's a creative accountant for an investment. It wasn't
Well,
fortunately in the States it wasn't caught.
The fault.
It
My
was my ex.
trustee, or the trustee of the estate and the trust, she defrauded the DTI. Bribery, corruption, manipulation, ripple effect, it's all there in the papers.
Sure.
And yet none of the judges in the High Court has looked at this attached public knowledge softly document and applied my rights for maintenance. 5 years they've deprived me.
Sure.
I have become homeless. I've lost everything. They thought they would rob me, but they could not rob me from my human dignity, my own ability and my strength. And I say it's me and God's army. I will be the David in the Goliath, and I will continue fighting for what is lawfully mine.
Wow.
But if you give up,
I'm not giving up.
You
I'm
can't.
saying that you can't give up.
You
Because
can't.
if you gave up, that's it. It's over.
They must be exposed.
Yeah, but there's
How do
no-
we
you have to
accept that
keep
the
going.
system fails us dismally, the justice?
Guys, we have to keep going, and I agree. We have to keep going for ourselves, for that little boy, for the Dylans, and for the women.
And for his children, he's got 7 children, so we had quite a patchwork family.
Yeah.
And there was more than enough for everyone.
And there's always
It's just
more.
greed.
There's always more than enough for everyone. Felicity, I want to ask you, because we really have to round up now. I want to ask the question to you is, and I spoke about it earlier, I mean, we're speaking about poverty already. Someone said yesterday, it's embarrassing. Strips you from your dignity. And when we're speaking about people, wealthy people, middle class people, poor people, to go to court all the time, and we laugh about it, that the clerk know us, they know the footsteps. You laugh, but inside it takes away from your dignity, because there are kids at home. Sometimes women are using their last money to go to court. You have, both of you actually, demanding justice, begging for justice, begging for maintenance. This dad, it's been 10 years, changes address, claims he's broke, what's the word? When you claim business owner?
Sequestrated.
Yeah. And then also changes addresses. 10 years, no maintenance.
So here's the thing. I know, and the Maintenance Act is under discussion. I think there's a draft out now. I don't know how much the Act will actually change. But there is a section, and I can't remember it right now, that if you change address, your residential or your work address, you have 7 days to notify the court of change of address. And in the absence thereof, you can face a fine or jail term.
Sure.
That exists in our Maintenance Act currently. I have never heard of anybody using it. So why should we do all the labor of running around trying to find somebody who's deliberately trying to hide? Okay? No, we need to flip this. Why should the burden of proof be on us?
Sure.
All of it. And so this is what I'm testing in my own case right now, is I'm going, burden of proof is on him to prove the amount of arrears, not on me. Because in his confusion, I can't prove exactly what the arrears are, because it doesn't get paid to me, and this is part of the behavior, create confusion. Anyway, I'm going to place the burden of proof on him. Let him prove how much he has paid, not how much he's in arrears. Let him prove. I've given sufficient evidence to show he's in arrears. Now let the burden of proof be. We just need somebody willing in the system to go, hang on, we've got basic laws, even if it's not in the Maintenance Act, that are in other legislation that they can use, and let's hold these people accountable. Put it on the front page of the newspaper every day of every week from every court in the country.
Sure.
You know, guys, people will go, hang on, it's not worth it. I'm going to be locked up. I'm just going to pay. Or I'm going to go to court and apply for a reduction because I'm unemployed. All my circumstances have changed.
Sure.
We'll start playing better games. We'll start doing life instead of playing games. Maybe I should say that rather.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of I think, quite emotional conversation, and I know we laughed a lot, but behind it all is stories, painful stories, stories of grief, stories of lies and deceit, intentional, stories of abuse that affects, I mean, with us, when it affects us, it's hard, it's bad, but when they touch the lives of our children, it cuts deeper. And so I'm going to ask us for the next, just 30 seconds, Paul, we'll start with you, is to speak to the lady out there that is waiting for something to be done. There's no money, she's homeless. To encourage her this afternoon. She may not be watching now, she may be watching later this evening. There's a tired woman that is there, that is tired, that is perhaps not as strong as you, that is wanting to give up. What would you tell her today?
My message to all those women, and I know a few of them, and even when you're tired and you're too tired to open your eyes, it doesn't matter what lays before you. Never stop believing in yourself, never stop praying for what you wish and the ability and the strength from above. Sometimes we look like nothing is happening.
Yes.
While our world is falling apart.
Yes.
I've held it together with a meeting with a judge president and 5 men, 2 advocates, 3 lawyers.
That's good.
Sitting there on the opposite side, knowing from the moment I walked into that room when the judge president didn't greet me first as the woman, and she's the woman, the new one. She greeted all the men, looked at me, please sit down. I knew already that...
You knew the tone of this conversation.
Yeah, exactly where we were going. But what I can say to you is, hold your faith within yourself.
Sure.
God has created us as our own miracles, and His power works from within and through us.
Sure. Thank you, Paul. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. Felicity, a lot of what we go through as women, and specifically this conversation, we're dealing with a bully. I met a victim yesterday of bullying, and it's deep within this conversation. So, and the behavior is bullying. I don't want to label him as the bully, but I want you to speak to him out there who knows that he's not doing what's due to that child. I want you to speak to him this afternoon. And then when you're done, I want you to speak to her, the tired mommy that doesn't want to go to court because she's tired. To leave her with something that moves her from the space of victim to victor.
That person who thinks he's winning because thinks he has power, it's not real power. And he's hurting himself more than he's hurting anybody else, because the kids see it, but the mother will make a plan. He's hurting himself because children grow up and they see things for what they are. But to that person, just for 1 minute, put yourself in her shoes. Just put yourself in her. Imagine having your children say, "Mommy, I need food, I'm hungry." And there is somebody who's promised to pay or refuses to pay that can change. Just imagine yourself in front of your children as yeah. And imagine what it's like for her. And to her, rest a while. Sure. It's exhausting. Like we're not gonna. Nobody cares. At the end of the day, nobody cares. So if you're tired, you need to rest because it's exhausting. And you know, I've been 14 years in the system, but there are women who've already been 10 years in the system and they've got another 5 years to go. And their kids are not going to be, you know, adult dependent children. They've already spent so much of their mothering time trying to take a rest. Take a rest. You've got 30 years. Just get your maintenance agreement in place. Like once you've got that, you got 30 years to claim arrears. That's when you rest. Wow. Put your effort into getting an agreement. Even if they're not going to pay, at least you've got a legal document. Okay? You've got 30 years. Take a few breaks. I do. I pace myself. Even though, like, I get triggered every time I go into those courts. It's 14 years of memory. Not just in that court, but of everything. Sometimes it doesn't. The time 2 years ago, before I started this, I literally sat there and sobbed. In fact, when I opened these cases, I sat there like sobbing, like really, my shoulders people looked at me and they must have thought, "Shame, she must have been beaten up so bad." Yes, I was by the system. But yeah, just rest. And keep going. And there comes a time, you know, unfortunately, the person could die in between that time with no money. You've got that far.
Wow.
You've got that far.
That's good. That's so good.
We can't control everything.
Oh, wow, Felicity, I just want to thank you. It's been a difficult conversation, some palatable some not so palatable. But I think these are conversations that must be held. I think our stories are sacred. More and more women are telling these stories, and some people say, why now? Why not now? And so I want to thank you for bringing that here, because through your stories we are helping others. I also want to wish you strength, and that you too rest a while, because sometimes when the rain comes and the sun goes away and the bee stings, and you're trying to also find money to Uber to get to a client, the rent must be paid. It's tough. So rest a while when you need it. And to those out there, even if you have a friend that is going through this, she needs a village. To the family of the perpetrator, we even have mother-in-laws that stands with their sons. That you put yourself in her shoes and be a woman. The true meaning of being a sister's keeper. You don't have to say much, you can just sit with her. But I think that it's important that we have these voices come out. And the show is intentionally called Voices on the Bridge. We don't want to be their voice because we don't believe that she doesn't have a voice. We want to bring the voice out in her. And so we also want to bring her from the bottom of the bridge and bring her on top of the bridge. And that's going to be through holding her and empowering her until she's ready. So thank you, everyone. It's been a real sacred space, but we believe that we don't stop. We don't stop until, even if it's for that one person, we go back and we fetch. Thank you, Felicity, and thank you, Paul.
Thank you for having us, Tarryn. Thanks so much.
And then just from Legacy of Hope and Mojo, we want to give you something small. Yeah, we won't say what's in there. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
For the invite.
Thank you.
I
Absolutely.
really
Sure.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Felicity, stay strong.
Thank you. And you?
Nice to see you again.